Most financial advice sounds the same. Make more money, very crucial and important. Invest more for sure. Max everything, your 401k. Make sure you don't leave any money on the table. Your Roth IRA, make sure you max it out to the tune of whatever the government has applauded for that year. Do all of these things and then you retire early. Yes, that is amazing. And that's great. That's great. But what nobody talks about is what happens when things don't quite go as planned. What if the market drops 20%? What if, unfortunately, your company is going through restructuring and you were made redundant? What happens if your industry takes a hit, slows down a bit because of market cycles, because of macroeconomic situations, or God forbid, if life throws something really expensive at you? What happens then? If your plan only works when everything is happy-go-lucky, that's a best-case scenario. That is not a practical plan, a realistic plan. Okay, today I want to talk about something a lot more practical. The financial life that builds resilience, a financial life that doesn't break. But before we go on, if you're new here, welcome and come closer. My name is Desayo and I'm happy to have you here. I'm a Harvard-trained ex-Wall Street professional helping real people take control of their money. Welcome. So when I say resilience, what does it mean? It doesn't mean you have a stash of cash sitting somewhere. It means you have a financial structure that does three things. It absorbs shock, it maintains function if it ever does take a hit without collapsing. This applies to buildings, reinforcing the pillars of the building and foundation. This also applies to companies. They would have an adverse case scenario, but then you hear of the severely adverse case scenario because we all know life happened. And so why shouldn't that apply to your finances, your personal finances, especially when other people are riding on it, other people that are your dependents, whether that's parents, siblings, kids, spouses? Why shouldn't that apply to you as well? Growth is great. And I would never be the one to stand on this high horse and say, oh, no, don't look to grow your money. No, growth is fantastic. But you know what's even better? Resilient finances that keeps you in the game long enough to enjoy the growth. I've heard of several people that would say, hey, I bought Bitcoin when Bitcoin was X amount. And if I kept it, I bought Tesla when Tesla was 200. In fact, before the stock split, if I kept it, it would have been X, it would have been Y. And that's what we're talking about. You want to make sure that you have something that is solid enough that it could take a shock. If the storm comes, if you had hail, if anything happened, you could remain standing. You could remain invested. Now, let's talk about it. It's not as difficult as people think. In fact, it's simpler than a lot of people think. It's in three measures. You prepare, you protect, and yay, you prosper, you grow. In that order. Not prospering before preparing and protecting, literally in that order. You prepare, you protect, and you prosper, you grow. Now, let's talk about preparation. Preparation is about withstanding interruption. What happens if your income stopped for 6 months, for 12 months, for 7 months? Whatever the gap is, what happens then? If you got laid off, if a disability happened, if something happened in your family and you just cannot work, at that point in time, what happens? Could you still maintain the same lifestyle that you have? Do you have a sufficient emergency fund? Not something you read on some blog somewhere and you're trying to apply. I'm saying that actually fits your life. If your run rate in your family is $6,000 a month, do you have that multiplied by X number of months that you're preparing for, at least 3 to 6 months? If your run rate, were $12,000 a month, it would look different. Your numbers would obviously be rich enough to that scale. And I'm not talking about a withered version of what you think it should be. Oh, I think we spend. No. Have you done the actual math? How much do you spend every month? And you multiply that by the number of months that you want to have some cushion for. Then we talk about fixed costs. Are you watching your fixed costs such that they're not higher than you are actually making? In which case, you will not be as flexible. You will not be as nimble. If you had this ginormous payment that you're making every month, how does that get paid? And how much wiggle room have you created for yourself to have and to be able to jump and to be able to flex if you absolutely needed to. You want that level of flexibility, which is what your actual emergency funds give you, the flexibility to reduce pressure in that time, to maybe seek a different opportunity, an opportunity that maybe fits your life at that time, and also to not make bad decisions under panic, under duress. You want that level of preparation. Now let's jump into protection. Protection is about removing a single point of failure. You want to try as much as possible to eliminate any type of potential catastrophic outcomes. So you have an over-leveraged property, for instance. This property, it just costs so much and it's taking so much from you monthly, both financially, even mentally sometimes. You maybe are concentrated in your employer stock. This is, you've put all your money in this employer. If anything happened to this company, God forbid, you are tied and joined at the hip with this company. You're over concentrated. Or let's say you have one source of income funding everything, funding your entire lifestyle. Those are not inherently bad. When things are going well, I mean, who cares? You're getting your bills paid, things are going well. Nobody prepares for the good days, the green days, the happy days, the fat days. But when things go sideways, and they would, because life is just life, what happens then? That's where it gets dangerous. That's where it gets risky. When your concentration is so singular that it can't withstand hit from a different angle that wasn't prepared for. It's just very dangerous when everything else depends on it. Insurance is boring. We all know. Nobody wants to pay for insurance. Like, why would I pay X amount of money to insure my whatever every month until something unexpected happens? Diversification, nobody talks about it. Everybody, like, it feels slower. It feels like, if I just like put all the money in this one stock, like in this one thing, I would have, instead of making maybe this modest return that you made on this particular investment because, you did diversify and you had a healthy portfolio, but no, it's still so slow and it's not as exciting. Or, nobody's talking about how taking leverage is like, you're the cool person at the dinner party. Like, oh my goodness, that guy, he knows what he's doing. Like, my goodness, he has such great heart for risk. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're risky. You're the fly person at the dinner party. But at the end of the day, if things hit the ceiling, we're not going to be there to rescue you on the days that it gets bad. And that's why you have to protect yourself. Protection increases your margin for error. It may not even be of your own doing, but your margin for error has to be there. It gives you so much peace of mind to know that, all right, if I needed to, I could swerve this way. If I needed to, I could swerve that way. If I needed to, I could hop over. Those things that just gives you a little bit of wiggle room, a little bit of, I could get out this way, I could get out that way. That's the exit. I have some type of plan B. I have some type of backup. That cannot be underrated. Now, let's talk about prosperity. Everybody wants to start at prosperity. Everybody wants to invest aggressively. They want this asymmetric upside. Everybody wants to build all these businesses. I'm a founder now. I started this AI company, and which all of those things are great. You want to take all this like risks, but they're fantastic. It's just, it has to sit on top of preparation and protection. It can be you just going as a skeleton that's got bare bones, and you're, going in head first into all of these different things. Prosperity is great. Growth is fantastic, but it needs to have sub layers under before you come out to say, these are the things that I want to do. I want to build this business and I want to be this founder and I want to do this, without actually putting your home in order. You have to put your home in order. You know why? Just in case that business fails, because it could. There is a high chance that a new business would fail. In fact, I heard a wise man once say that 9 out of 10 businesses fail. It means that I have to create 10 businesses. Do you have room for 9 of the 10 businesses that you start to fail? Because it could. It really could. I want you to sit with that for a minute. It could happen. Or this venture that's so exciting and that they're the hottest kids on the block now, you want to invest in them. What if they also shut down? It could happen. Will you still be standing? Will you still be fine? That's what we're going to and getting at. At the end of the day, if you've been working for so long and you can't take a little hit and you can't land on your feet if something happens, why are you doing everything that you're doing? Why are you doing everything that you're doing? Once stability and risk controls are in place, then your growth opportunities, they begin to sound more intelligent. It begins to sound more refined because you've potentially thought about it. You've potentially, put everything, the systems that you have and that you need, put all of that in place. Now you no longer start to be desperate to try and turn $1 into $1,000 overnight. Now you've done your homework. Prosperity is where you truly can invest aggressively. You can rebalance your portfolio to probably take a little bit more risk, calculated risks, of course. Maybe invest in that venture, start that business, invest in the startup that you wanted to, all of the things that, all the opportunities, all the asymmetric opportunities that you have always wanted. Prosperity is where you can really do it, lean into it without thinking that if anything, because those things there's no guarantee that they would work out. And if they worked out, fantastic. But if they didn't work out, you wouldn't land on your back. And that's why we're having this conversation. Prosperity and growth should expand your options and your opportunity. It shouldn't threaten your foundation. Unfortunately, a lot of people try to reverse that sequence, but the sequence matters. A lot of people try to protect after they've gone through a scare. Like, oh my goodness, I almost got in an accident. Oh my goodness, I need to get my insurance today. Do I have full coverage? You do all of that because you've not gotten a scare. And a lot of people still then, after they go through a crisis, I unfortunately heard about a situation where someone lost their vehicle. The vehicle, it's an electric vehicle. It just caught on fire. They were driving. Thank God they were safe and they were able to get out with their child. And this is a real life story. And then they started working on, how do I make sure to protect myself against this happening in the future? How do I prepare for something like this to happen? Getting a new car, all the things that you could have done before, you're not thinking about doing it. You're trying to prepare and protect yourself after a scare or a crisis. It doesn't really work that way. You can't try to prosper first and then something happens and now you're back to square one, even square zero. The sequence, if you do go through preparing, protecting, and prosper, that would at least help you almost sequence a point of breakage. If something were to hit you, you're prepared. If that thing that hit you kind of dug a little bit deeper, you still have another layer of protection before you go into your investments, before you have all these different things. All right, I lost my job. It's been 6 months. I had that going. Okay, maybe this time I can then apply for some type of thing with my insurance or whatever the case is. Okay, maybe I can take this type of job and that type of job just to keep things afloat. That way, I'm not touching my investment. Steady state and I'm not getting anything. Then you can now start thinking about your investment. Hopefully they're liquid enough for you to try and get there, but it could happen. I'm not saying that you're doomed to this happening. I'm saying that if it did happen, you must have a plan. And your first plan should not be getting out of your investments, because then you're going to be having a distressed sale and someone's going to take it off your hands if you're lucky. If you're not, they're going to try and squeeze you for all the juice that you might have built into. For instance, if you're trying to have a distressed property sale, the buyer is going to try and squeeze you for all the juice. Why? When you could have just done your homework, prepared yourself, protected yourself. Hopefully, we don't have to have that kind of outcome. I just want to make sure that you understand my perspective and that it applies to you and that you're taking this in and you're thinking about how it's applicable in your life. Your money is resilient when a loss of a job doesn't necessarily change your lifestyle, at least not dramatically. Or an opportunity appears and you can comfortably say, you know what, I want to be a part of that, or you know what, that's not for me right now. You can make a fine decision, a thoughtful decision, and not just, oh my goodness, they said that if I give them $1,000 today, they would give me $10,000 in 2 weeks. You're not making those irrational decisions that logically, that's not so good to be true. And if it's too good to be true, it probably is. For all intents and purposes, resilience finances would not make you rich overnight. This is not a get rich. In fact, it doesn't. There's no part of this that gets you rich quickly. It keeps you in the game, and keeping you in the game really is where your wealth will compound. You want to stay in the game long enough to reap the benefits of being an early mover. Oh, you invested in NVIDIA when it was nothing, and now NVIDIA is doing all these different things and doing great. Fantastic. You're now a millionaire. That's what we're talking about. If your money only survives perfect condition, then your money is fragile. If your money is able to survive sustained stress, that's strong. Now, if your money is able to adapt, jump from this to this, all right, I've seen danger here, identify that this could be dangerous. I'm able to pivot quickly. I'm able to adapt. Now, that is powerful. Now, let's think about it. Where's your money right now? You, that you're looking at me. What would you say? Do you think your money's strong? Do you think your money is resilient? Do you think that it's fragile? Comment down below. Are you going to start from step one? And there's no shame in the game. There's no shame in the game. Wherever you are, in fact, your money is almost synonymous to your life. It's a living, breathing thing. It doesn't end. So if you have to start from preparation, own it. Go back and re-prepare. If you had to start from protection, go back to step 2. Preparation step 1, protection step 2, and prosperity step 3. Okay, I want to hear your thoughts. How have you prepared, maybe protected yourself, and how's prosperity going for you? Comment down below and I'll see you in my next video. I have to tell you though, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe and follow me for even more and maybe even more controversial topics, because money is very personal and that's what we're going to talk about on this channel. I'll see you in my next one.